everyone. My name is Liz. I'm with Big Hairy Dog. So sorry for the slight delay. We're going to be getting started here in just a moment. So waiting on a few attendees to go ahead and log on in. If anybody has any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Currently, everyone is on mute. There will be a time at the end of our webinar here where I can go ahead and unmute you if you'd like, or I can just go ahead and read off the questions. But throughout, if you do have a question, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand / send me that question. I'll try to go ahead and address as many as I can throughout the presentation. And of course, we'll hit everybody that I don't get a chance to at the very end, or at the very end. Thanks so much, and again, we're going to wait just a few minutes. I'll go ahead and share out my screen in just a second here. Thank you. All right, and so I have a small agenda for us to go ahead and take a look at, and actually we're going to go ahead and get started here. So today's webinar is going to be for QuickBooks POS. For those of you who might not know, QuickBooks has recently released version 19, QuickBooks POS version 19, and so that does have a few added benefits. They have a new PIN pad that does offer contactless payment, like the tap, and a lot of new e-commerce integration. So if anybody's interested in taking a look at that, please feel free to give us a call and to speak to Joanne. She's our QuickBooks representative over here. Right now, I will be showing you guys version 18 just for today, and we will go through the purchasing and receiving, which has not changed too much going into 19. So anybody who is currently on 19 should be able to go ahead and follow along, no problem. All right. And so to get started, we're going to go ahead and be looking at purchasing and receiving today. And so that's going to go ahead and include creating new inventory from a PO and creating a PO using existing inventory. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right. And so I have some pretty generic data. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody know that right now, but we're going to go ahead and jump into purchase orders. All right, so right off the bat, there's a few things to note. We do see a few red asterisks over here. So these are required fields. So something that is required is going to be our PO number and a vendor. The system does automatically assign PO numbers. You can overwrite that. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and leave that at PO number 3. For vendor, I can go ahead and select a vendor. Even at this time, I can add a new vendor. So if I wanted to go ahead and create one on the fly, I definitely can. I'm going to go ahead and use my very creative demo company here. All right, and from there, we're going to go to our enter items. So in this field, you can type in, you can go ahead and use a scanner. Otherwise, you can pull the drop-down menu and go ahead and get a nice list of all the items that we have. You can also use that find items to get that pop-up view. I really enjoy the pop-up view a little bit. I think it's a little bit more user-friendly. We can still have access to our find, type, and search. Basic find is going to look like this. It will drop you into this. Advanced find options is going to add these additional criteria. And once you toggle between one or the other, it'll go ahead and leave you there. But you can always go ahead and close it up. Besides that, we can go ahead and go to item list. So this is going to be our little backdoor into our entire inventory. And in this, we have access to our doc quantity. So remember, doc quantity is going to refer to your document quantity, whatever document you're on currently. In this case, a PO. Doc quantity on a voucher would be voucher quantity. All right, so this is a dot quantity on a PO, so it's our PO quantity. We do have the option of editing our PO cost as well, but let's just say to get a few of these bell bottoms on here, I'm just going to throw in a few numbers. All right, and there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and hit select down here on the bottom right. And so now I have those items on my PO. Even at this time here, I can go ahead and highlight on the item and make edits. I can edit the item using my edit item. I can add additional quantity using my quantity buttons, or I can remove this item from this particular PO. Besides that, I wanted to also show you that you can go ahead and add new items on a PO. And I can go ahead and use my new item button here. I also have access to that new item button from that little pop-out. And so over here, it is pretty standard. Again, anything that has that asterisk is going to be a required field. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in a few things. The vendor is going to go ahead and be the same vendor. All right, and let's go ahead and put in sheet. There we go. All right, and so even here, we do have the option to go ahead and edit and add a style. And so I'm going to go ahead and save these changes so far. I could have put in a cost and price beforehand, and actually I think I will. So I'm going to go ahead and say maybe they cost me $10 each. So I am selling them, oh, that's a little much right there. Oh, actually, that is my cost anyways. So let's sell them for 40. Let's sell them for 40. And then my order cost in this case, let's just do 15. All right, there we go. And a decent margin. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and come on over here and one more time, edit, add style. We'll save these changes and continue. And so over here, we have access to our style grid and our style template. So I have a pretty standard template. It doesn't do much for my jean sizes, but it'll work for what we want to do right now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and change that label because I did not go ahead and throw it in there. And I'm going to change this label as well. So we're going to go ahead and call this one, do I already have black? Let's do at wash. Change attribute label. All right, perfect. So I just wanted to go ahead and get those changed because I did not assign it an attribute and size before I went ahead and saved it. I could have assigned it an attribute and size, and then it would have fallen within my style or my scale here. But besides that, I can go ahead and then add any additional quantities or change this quantity. And again, this is going to be order quantity. So let's just say I want 5 of all of these here. And maybe we'll also do 5 in black. All right, and so the rest of these I do not need to fill out. They are a native part of my template, but that doesn't mean that I have to use them. If I wanted to use them, but if I wanted to create the items, but I didn't necessarily want to order them just yet, I absolutely could as well. I could go ahead and put zeros across the board or in the select spaces if I was going to carry the red, but in some select colors. Let's just go ahead and say only in evens. All right, and so adding those zeros will have the system create the item, but it will not go ahead and put that particular item on this PO. I'm going to go ahead and save and select. And so there we go. And so we actually have them on this PO, excuse me. But you can see here they are at that 0 quantity. So we still have the 0 on hand, and we have the 0 quantity. But it did do what I wanted it to do in creating those items, so I can order them later on down the line. All right, so we have our due field over here. I did want to point out a few other fields for us, and just a reminder that you can change the positioning of all of these columns. You can sort by anywhere where there's a little blue dot right in front of it, and the triangle, where the triangle is pointed, is going to speak to whether that is ascending or descending order. Okay, but for right now, taking a look at all my quantity due, this looks about right, and I'm ready to go ahead and save this particular PO. In addition to this, though, there's a few other things I want to go ahead and point out that are not necessarily required, but neither is a PO. A PO is a planning document. But But over here, ship to address, I can go ahead and enter my ship to and bill to information. I can enter a cancel date. So if you use cancel date is essentially you telling the system that if it reaches this date, I don't want to go ahead and receive this item anymore, these items anymore. I see it used a little bit more strictly for more seasonal items. You don't want to be receiving Christmas items on December 23rd. We just don't have enough time to sell it, and I don't want to receive it to immediately have to put it on clearance. All right, down over here we have instructions. So I can go ahead and enter my PO instructions, and that can be as simple as, please call before shipping, or, please add reference PO number to outside of box, anything that you want your vendor to know. You can also set up predefined instructions in your company preferences. Terms here, we can go ahead and edit these on the fly. You can also put your terms in on the vendor record itself. But we can go ahead and say due in 30 days, percentage, discount if paid within X amount of days. But I'm going to go ahead and say no, my demo company is not as nice. We don't really have terms. And then we can also enter our payment due date here. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and save only. You can save and print. Before I hit that save, while I'm over here, just to point out one more time, we do have our fees and our discount percent here. And we can go ahead and add additional fees. Maybe they charged us a small order fee or an expedite fee, and we can go and put that here. The only other thing before I hit save is the I want to button. So the I want to button, as many of you know, is going to give you some additional options depending on where you are within QuickBooks. So these additional options include, selecting item from a list or selecting vendor from a list. So essentially what you can get via the find items just a little quicker. Again, we can go and edit those instructions or add a new special order item. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and save only. All right, and so now that I have created that purchase order, they are going to live here in my PO list. And I can go ahead and view them. I currently have 2 open POs. And so it looks like over here, just to go ahead and give everyone the lay of the land here, we can see that quantity order, quantity due, what we've received so far, and then the percent unfilled. So this one, we've received 20 units. And so I am still about 40% unfilled. So there's still, 13 that is due. And here's my total for that particular PO. And over here, you can see we are 100% unfilled. And that means, of course, we haven't received any of that information just yet. When we hit that 0% unfilled, we've received it all. We're all squared away, and we can go ahead and retire that particular PO. In this case, I'm going to close it. All right, and so next down the line is going to actually be the voucher. And so under receiving voucher, so right off the bat, we are dropped in just to an open voucher. And so we can immediately start scanning our items or entering them. Again, we can use that drop-down menu, and we can go ahead and add a new item and receive that new item on the fly, or we can go ahead and select from a list. We can enter our vendor name here, or of course, take it from our list. It's going to be our vendor company. Open purchase order exists for this vendor. And so this is that pop-up I wanted to go ahead and show everybody. If you do have a PO for the listed vendor, it's going to ask if you want to go and reference against, if you want to go and use that PO and receive against that particular PO. If I know for a fact that this isn't, the PO I'm waiting on, maybe this is just something extra that they sent me just to send it, then of course we can hit no. For in this case, I'm going to hit yes. All right, and so I have 2 currently. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use the one that we just made, my PO number 3. And we have a few options here. We can receive all due or select items to receive. So I'm going to select items to receive, and this opens up an additional pop-up box for me. Let me open this up a little bit more. So this actually has quite a bit of information. And here, just like everywhere else, we can customize the columns and customize what we can see in this particular pop-up box. All right. And so just like we had dot quantity on my PO, I have dot quantity on the voucher. So this is my receiving quantity, my voucher quantity. And so we can go ahead and see what was received already and what is due. So if I hit select all, this is going to work just like my received due, and it'll go ahead and automatically receive everything in the full amount that's due. And it still gives us the chance to go ahead and go through and make sure that everything looks good. And if it doesn't, of course, I want to go ahead and come on in here and edit that quantity. So like you can see over here, I have a jean that actually does not have that attribute and size that I went ahead and missed. I don't want to order that. I'm going to go ahead and say 0 on that one. So maybe that was a little bit of a mistake that I made, and I can go ahead and address that in my inventory and retire it if I need to, or assign it an attribute and size and reuse that. For now, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And there we go. It goes ahead and opens this up. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this up a bit. Let me see. I bet I can fit it in. Yeah. All right. So there we go. Just want to make sure we weren't overlapping here, but we have all of those items. Even at this point, we can go ahead and click into it and edit that quantity. So if you did, not catch it quite yet, and then we looked in the box and realized, oh no, maybe we have a few more of these or not quite enough, we can go ahead and change it. We do have the option of seeing that original PO as well. But other than that, there's a few other things I wanted to go ahead and point out. So from this, before we've officially vouchered it in, we can still print our tags. And when we print our tags, we can go ahead and print all tags for all items, or just the one that we're highlighted on. If you're printing all tags, especially from a voucher, this is probably going to be the most helpful for people, is printing tags from your voucher or from your former voucher. Then you know you have enough tags to get all of the items that we just received off the floor. And in that case, I would use my document quantity, unless it maybe had some extra lying around. But I want to ensure that I have at least one for every item that I need to go ahead and get on the floor today. All right, and then I can go ahead and preview this. Of course, I can go ahead and just print it directly to my tag printer. I'm not going to go ahead and actually print anything. I'm set up. No, I don't have a tag printer set up. I just have a regular letter printer at the moment. Besides that, we can go ahead and add additional discount fee and freight information. So if we did get a discount on this order, we can go ahead and add that, or our freight information. And we have the option to spread that discount and freight and fee information. And so what that means is that if we did have, let's say, maybe they did charge us a small order fee. All right, and they charged us a 25 small order fee. And you see now our voucher total has changed. We hit that 890. If I spread my discount, you can see that fee disappears. It stays at the 890, and I close that. And my voucher cost does increase a little bit for every item that is on this particular transaction. Discount fee, if I go ahead and unspread that, you see my voucher cost goes back down, and now I have the fee broken out separately and easily reportable. All right, let's actually spread that and close. And there we go. So my voucher cost went back up. My fee is no longer broken out separately. But now I can go ahead and save only or save and print. Of course, if you get interrupted in the middle of everything, you can go ahead and put it on hold and come back to it later. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save only. All right. And then this, this is happening because I did spread my cost. So it's updating my voucher cost, and thus my voucher cost is updating my inventory cost. So I'm getting this little pop-up. Most of you might not go ahead and get this anymore. You probably went in and clicked the don't show this message again. And then we can go ahead and let this actually take effect or review the prices later. So let's go ahead and review the prices later. And there we go. We are all set. And now we're all done with this particular voucher, and we're ready to start a new one. This just drops you right into that same screen, and so we can go ahead and start scanning new information, enter new vendor information, or of course come right over here. And this is probably the more straightforward way of referencing a PO. All right, and so over here we can go ahead and see we still have our PO number 3 available, and that is because I still have some quantity due on that. Remember, I found a little mistake that I made. Over here, I have my original PO that I created a few days ago. Oh, actually, it was a while ago. So let's go ahead and receive all due for this particular one. And so there we go, receive all due without having to go ahead and get that additional pop-up. It just brought up what was currently due, and it gives me that chance to go ahead and confirm that this is what I have in front of me currently and make those last minute changes to anything else that I might need to go ahead and change. All right. And even here at the voucher, again, we can go ahead and add a new item to this via my new item button from the drop down or my add new item button down over here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this one on hold. Yeah, I don't need to finish this one just yet. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to my former vouchers or receiving history. All right, so we can go ahead and see this one that I created today. So this is all of the detail information, everything that was on that particular voucher. And let's say that I made a mistake on this voucher. Weirder things have happened. I'm going to show my details. And let's say that it was a slight quantity adjustment that I need to make, or maybe there was a cost adjustment that I didn't catch. Really, if it's a quantity, if I needed to go ahead and order, or if I needed to receive a few more, I could just do another voucher. But if it's like a cost adjustment, I could come over here and reverse this voucher. All right, cashiers and views, just admin. All right, so I've returned this voucher. And see, now our status says reversed, and it's just a record reversing was created. It's a return type voucher. Now I could copy this original voucher that I had reversed and save me the time of having to go ahead and get these items all back on my screen. So let's go ahead and shrink that again. And so let's say now that I've reversed it, is essentially a brand new voucher that I'm working on. I can go ahead and edit my voucher cost. And now remember, we had our discount or our fee spread here. So let me go ahead and take a minute to unspread this and close. And I want to see what my voucher cost looks like without any fees. So it's $5, but maybe there was an increase, and I just didn't catch it when I was doing that initial receiving. Maybe I didn't catch it until we received the vendor invoice, which might have been a little bit later on in the day or maybe another day. But here, so I need to make that correction. So I reversed it, copied the original, coming down, and I'm just updating my bell bottoms because they went up a dollar. They went up a dollar here. And there we go. Now they cost $1 on this particular voucher. Now, whether or not I want to update my price at this point is, up to the retailer. Maybe, these items are already on my floor. It's in the middle of the day. I'm not quite ready to go ahead and retag. So I'm going to update the cost because I want my cost to be, I want my inventory to be as correct as possible at the end of the day. And so I'm going to go ahead and update my cost. And then, when I have a minute and I have maybe some help, then I'm going to print some new tags. And I'm going to go ahead and update the price and inventory using maybe a price adjustment memo. Or again, you could, like I said, wait to do this a little bit and then update voucher cost and price at the same time and just be ready to retag any additional on hand that we might have. Best case scenario would be we don't have any on hand, and what we're tagging today is going to go ahead and be our whole stock, and so our price change or changing the price here on the voucher would be the easiest and the fastest. And sometimes we need to go and do whatever we can to go and make things as smooth as possible. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and update the cost. Actually, let's go ahead and add a few things. I did a little quickly for those of you that might not have caught that. I just right-click on the column header, and we can go ahead and customize columns. And we open this up, we can go ahead and see some additional information that we have. So let's also go ahead and get I also wanted, actually I'm not seeing the additional information that I wanted to pull up, so I can go and show you guys that in inventory. and on a PO. But for now, let's go ahead and run this as normal. We're going to go ahead and save only. All right. And so now I'm, again, on a brand new voucher, so I can cancel out of this brand new voucher and then come on back. All right, so now we have that original reversed, the sister record reversing, and now we have that new regular receiving voucher with the corrected cost for those few items. And that's a pretty simple correction for something that might occasionally happen, but hopefully our vendors are giving us enough of a heads up that prices are changing, so that way we don't have to go ahead and make those kinds of mistakes. But the fix for it is relatively simple. And then here again, we can go ahead and add the discount. And even from here, I could spread that cost. I can go and add additional information. You just have to be careful with updating vouchers that have already updated your inventory in regards to spreading. Again, for that, if you want to spread and you want the items to absorb the cost, you're going to want to go ahead and reverse and then do that all on a brand new voucher. But there's nothing wrong with going and coming on here or adding some vendor billing information or anything else like that at the very end, because again, we might not have our vendor invoice until after we've actually received the product. All right. And so the only other thing that I went ahead and didn't talk about was, let me see. Oh, I think from our receiving vouchers, we didn't go ahead and create a new item. I just go and point it out, but we didn't get a chance to test it. And so if I go ahead and come over here to new item, that's going to bring up this inventory item pop-up box. So this looks pretty much exactly like it looks in our inventory. And so we have access to all the same fields. Looks a little bit more familiar than a PO. Sometimes people like to go ahead and hang tight until the voucher just because it is a little bit more familiar. But I would say take the time, explore the PO. It's not that different, and having things set up in advance does help receiving later on down the line. All right. And then this, of course, again, everything with the asterisk is required. You can go ahead and build just let me see. Very creative demo item. All right. And so we can go ahead and add a size and attribute here. Let's just go ahead and give it a price. Let's go ahead and call it the jumpsuit. That works. We don't just see one clothing item. All right, let's call it 25, and let me see, our unit cost is going to be 10. Let's go ahead and throw that on there. All right, and then we can go ahead. I personally like adding vendors. I know vendors are not actually required, but I personally like to go ahead and add vendors to all of my items. I think it makes reporting a little bit easier, and I have access to a little bit more information that I wouldn't necessarily have access to if all of my vendors were blank or just the system. But we're going to go ahead and kind of save this as is and get that on our voucher here, and then we can edit our voucher quantity and save only or continue. Actually, before we would save only, we would have to go ahead and list a vendor here because a vendor is required for your vouchers. For right now, I'll go ahead and cancel out of here. Discard changes, yes. All right, and so that is, pretty much it. Our QuickBooks POS purchasing and receiving is pretty straightforward. Do we have any questions so far? Any questions on anything that we've gone over, or maybe something that you've experienced while using QuickBooks? All right. And then I apologize. I think someone tried to raise their hand just now, and I missed who had their hand raised. So if you raising your hand just a second ago, please go ahead and raise your hand one more time, and I can go ahead and unmute you. We can go ahead and talk a little. Or if anybody has a question. Oh, okay. So we have a few raised hands, and all right. And so Janet, we'll go ahead and start with you because it looks like, yeah, it looks like we had a few people raising their hands. So Janet, we'll start with you. If you're ready, I can go ahead and unmute you, or you can feel free to go ahead and just ask it via the question. All right, let's unmute. All right, so Janet, it looks like you are self-muted at the moment, and so feel free to unmute, or you can go ahead and ask the question via the question. Oh, there we go.
I don't know that I have a speaker. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't even use this on here. So first of all, will this, or maybe my main question, will this be available to study again after today? Will it be on the YouTube thing or whatever?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you guys will actually be receiving a copy of this. You'll be receiving a link that you can watch it. Oh, sorry, we got a little. Sorry, I muted you for just a second because I was getting a little bit of feedback when I was hearing myself talk. But yes, absolutely, we'll go ahead and email you guys a link to go ahead and view this. It will also be available on our recorded webinars, so you can go back to it at any time. It does take a moment to get onto our website, though, so you might go ahead and see that private YouTube link before you go ahead and see it on that previously recorded tab. But thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you one more time.
I think that's the main question I have, really. Others are a little undefined.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Janet. And it looks like Dan. Unfortunately, Dan, looks like I don't have any audio connection for you. I'm not able to go ahead and unmute you. So if you have a question and you want to go ahead. Oh, looks like we did get a question. All right. All right, so it looks like Shelly asked a question. It's a pretty great question. So what is the difference between an inventory item versus a non-inventory item? And let me see. Non-inventory items. Okay, and it sounds like you're having a hard time balancing your inventory, and it could be due to non-inventory items, kind of depending on what kind of items you're selling. But the main difference between an inventory item and a non-inventory item is that an inventory item tracks on-hand quantity. So you're telling QuickBooks that this is an inventory item, which means I need you to track how much is coming in and out of the system. And a non-inventory item, it's something that you're telling QuickBooks, I need to be able to sell this. I need to be able to put it on the receipt. I need to be able to have a price, and I need to be able to report on it. But I don't necessarily need to track on hand. So a non-inventory item, I've seen them used like for service items. If we offer gift wrapping, then we go ahead and charge people a set fee for gift wrapping, and we put it in as a non-inventory item. We never go negative because we're not tracking on hand. We will never have on hand quantities because I can't package that. There's no way I can go ahead and have a physical gift wrap. And the other thing I go ahead and see it used for is like bags, like plastic bags. Here in California, we have to go ahead and charge for plastic bags. And so, you know, no one's going to sit there and count 5,000 bags. I don't think that's a very smart use of someone's time. But, you know, maybe they're really expensive bags. So, I mean, in the case of a plastic bag, though, I'm just going to go ahead and mark that as a non-inventory item. I can sell them as I need them to be sold. But QuickBooks genuinely doesn't care how many I have in my back room. And so it could go ahead and your non-inventory item. So if you have an item that should be a non-inventory item, you shouldn't be tracking on hand, but you don't have it set up as a non-inventory item, then you know you will be going negative on that item if you're not receiving it. And so that could cause an imbalance in your inventory. If you don't think that's quite the case, then Shelly, I would suggest go ahead and give us a call. Let's set up a little training. My name is Liz M. My email is actually right up over here. If you guys can see that, Liz M at Big Hairy Dog. And this is, of course, our tech support email and our tech support number over here. But yeah, if you don't quite think that that is it, but we want to go ahead and make sure that we help you sort out your inventory. So give us a call and let's set something up. Looks like we do have another question. Let me see. So when trying to find an item, is it possible to drill down and only search from a particular vendor instead of all items in the system? And so let's go ahead and jump into the purchase orders. And let me see. Oh, and it looks like Rebecca gave us a nice suggestion as well. She mentioned that she uses non-inventory items for admission sales and shipping costs. And so that's another really great example. The admission sales, I almost forgot about that one. But yeah, so that's a perfect example of something that we need to be able to sell. I want to be able to report on how many times I sold that particular item, but I don't need to track on hand. I'm never going to go ahead and receive in admissions tickets. All right. So we go into the find items and go to over here. So we can go ahead and have some advanced options here. The find, one thing that we can also do is, actually, in this case, what we can do is set up some filters here. Actually, from the PO screen, I don't think I'm going to have access. Sorry, Dan. What I'm trying to go ahead and figure out is a way if I can go ahead and get you access to your filters that we can create in your inventory, because you know, I'm sure you're already aware within your inventory you can manage your filters, and that way we can go ahead and toggle to specific vendors as needed. And so I was trying to go ahead and see if there was a little workaround for getting that onto our PO screen here. But unfortunately, we would have to go ahead and drill down a little bit more. What shows up down here is essentially still all of your inventory. Adding that demo vendor does not limit you to that particular vendor. That kind of functionality, you'll see it in a few other softwares, and actually is something that you see in Retail Pro, another software that we offer here at Big Hairy Dog and that we train people on. But within QuickBooks on the PO screen, you would have to go ahead and pre-filter to those items / scan for those items. So I'm sorry about that. I know it's not exactly what you were looking for. But we can go ahead and have access to all of that, like vendor information over here. In my setup, it's a little different because almost all of my items are from this particular vendor, but that should give you a little bit of a pre-filter, actually having vendors and being able to put them on there, and then being able to go ahead and see vendor items from that particular vendor before you get a chance to go ahead and go in here. But like I said, with my particular setup, all of my vendors are the same, so I can't really show you that particular aspect. Maybe if I go ahead and create a new one, but unfortunately, I don't have a way of getting your inventory filters onto the PO screen. All right, and so I'm trying to text. Do we have any other questions? All right, so it looks like as for right now, we don't have any additional questions. If anybody has any additional questions, you know, we can feel free to go and ask them now. Like I said, this was a shorter webinar, so if you have any questions actually that don't involve purchasing and receiving, you know, we have a few minutes. I can go ahead and touch base on a few of those. Oh, there's actually one thing that I realized I did not go ahead and mention, and that is in regards to our POs here. I'm going to go to cancel out of this. And so over here in my PO list, I go to view. All right, and so I have these two POs here, and so as you're going to have more and more POs, and they do hit that 0% unfilled as so long as we have all of the items received, but they don't just go away. We do have to go ahead and come in here and clean it up a little bit, manage and maintain our POs. And so I can go and utilize my I want to, and I can delete the PO once I no longer need it. Now, there are some people who like to go ahead and keep old POs. They like to go ahead and see what they've purchased and see what they purchased around this time last year and all that beautiful information. There are reports that can also go ahead and get that for you. So you don't necessarily need to keep the PO around, and it does make looking and searching for the POs, referencing against the correct PO, a little bit easier. So we do go ahead and try to go ahead and push for people to go ahead and maintain a clean PO list if you're using POs. Like I said, POs are a planning document, so they're not necessarily required, but they do help streamline the process for receiving a little bit down the line. All right, and then with that, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself for just a moment, and again, go ahead and ask if anybody has any questions at all that we can go ahead and try to cover. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for being attentive and for joining me on the webinar. And so one more time, Shelly, that you don't quite think that that was what's going on with your inventory, please give us a call and let's help you figure that out. But besides that, I'll go ahead and let you guys go in a minute here. Thank you so much. All right, so we got a few thank yous in. So I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting and thank you guys all again for coming on in and staying with me. And like I said, we'll be sending out this recording as soon as we can, and then you'll see it on the previously recorded tab on our website a little bit after that. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.